Okay. Gonna wait for a while. Then I'm going to. Yes, mic 1, 2. Just gonna wait for another 1 minute. I'm going to. Okay. Okay, so the topic that we are going through today is quadrant, and I will be covering both mathematics and additional mathematics part of this topic. So now what you're going to see is the main frameworks that this particular topics works on. So I'm going to introduce you to all the quadrants here. So this one over here that you're looking at, the first quadrant, followed by second quadrant, third, and fourth. Okay. So I believe that you are familiar with sine, cosine, tangent. You are year 10 and year 11 already. Okay. However, this part here works slightly different from what you learned. Doesn't evolve around the opposites, adjacent, and also hypotenuse. Okay, so you're gonna memorize this. At the first quadrant, all three sine, cosine, tangent will be positive. The second quadrant here, only sign will be positive. And we have third quadrant, which is our tangent, only the one that's positive here. And the last one, which is the fourth quadrant that goes by, cosine is positive over here. So for you to memorize this, I make up something very funny. So I call this all school teacher crazy. So that's how I memorize this. You can work out your own idioms, whichever that works for you, it's fine. So do take note that the 0 degree always starts at the red line that I have over here, that is moving. Okay, that's the 0 degree starts. Okay, moving on. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of questions so that you can understand how this works better. So the graph that I showed you earlier, you can always draw next to your question so that you can identify the results better. Okay, so I draw it over the set over here. Okay, work it out as per usual. So there's a 2 tangent x here. Okay, so the first thing that I did was to get rid of the 2. So I gotten tangent x equals to 2 over 2. Then you will get your results as tangent x equals to 1. So this 1 is really quite important. You have to take note that whether it is positive or not. Okay, so remember the fourth quadrant that we learned, which is all crazy, and the tangent results here is positive, which means your answer will be at the first and the fourth quadrant. Okay, so let's figure out what tangent x equals to 1 represent. So by doing so, to identify this answer, you're required to use tangent inverse and 1 inside the bracket. So by calculating this, you will get your results as 45. Okay, however, this is not the end, because you're required to incorporate this information here. In every question, they will give you a particular range that the answer could appear at. So for this, we have 0 to 360, which means it doesn't only cover this 45 degree that we have over here. Okay, you also have to include the second answer, which is the one at the third quadrant. Okay, so to identify this, you're required to reflect this 45 degree to the opposite. So you can actually treat this as the vertically opposite rules that you will learn. So to get this, we are required to take 180 plus 45. So your answer for this will actually be 225. Okay. So this will be our first examples that I'm covering here. So if you get any question, you can now list it down before I move on to the next one. If you're okay with it, then you can just type in something to notify me about it in the chat box. So I will be covering about 9 questions for mathematics, then the rest will be additional mathematics already. So if you are not sitting for additional mathematics, you can tune off later on. Okay, but you need to make sure that you fully understand this first 9 questions that I covered. So since nobody respond to me, so I'm just gonna continue to go through the examples that I have over here. So moving on to the next question, we have 8 sine x equals to 3. So as per usual, I first sort out by getting rid of the 8. So I got sine x equals to 3 over 8. Then I'm gonna check on the results. Okay, it is a positive, which means that our answer will actually fall on the first and second quadrant because of all school teacher. Crazy. So sine will be positive when it is at the first and the second quadrant. So x equals to sine inverse 3 over 8. Key in your calculator. Then you should get your results as 22. Okay, so I just round it up because in 3 significant figures it's just 22.02, so it's less than 5. So I just write 22 as the answer. Okay, however, this is only one of the results, so you're required to work it out for the other one. So by reflecting it, okay, like treating here as a mirror, okay, this 22-degree will be reflected over here. So to get the exact results, I'm required to take 180 minus 22. And the answer will be 158. Okay. So these two will be your final results. So I want you to try on this third question over here and see whether you can get the answer same as mine. So my answer that I gotten here will be 70.5 degree and 289.5 degree. So let's try, see whether you can get the answer. So for cosine to be positive, your answer will either be at the first quadrant or the fourth one. So you should get something like this. Okay, once you got the answer, you can key into the chat box. Then I'm gonna cross check your findings. The details is over here on the workings. Cosine x equals to 1 over 3. X equals to cosine first over 3. That's how you find the results. So by keying into a calculator, you'll get this automatically, which is 70.5. For the 289.5, slightly tricky. You just have to work backwards. Okay, this is like a mirror over here, so reflect it down. 360 minus 70.5 for you to get the answer. So for those who just joined in or you missed previous explanation, you can watch it later on. So I'm gonna continue on my following slides. Okay, the key difference between this part and the previous one is now we have a extra variables that we have to get rid of, which is this positive 1, this minus 1 over here. And the last one is another part of this topic. Okay, so let's get the first two questions sorted out first. Okay, nothing unusual, just treat it as per normal. First thing that I got rid was the 1 over there. Positive 1 changed to the other side, then it becomes minus. So I gotten 3 minus 1. Okay. Then your answer would be 3 cosine x equals to 2. Okay, so your cosine x will be 2 over 3. By illustrating the quadrants over here, you should get your results, okay, at the first and the fourth quadrant. Okay, work out through your calculator. You should get 48.2 and 311 and 8. So these two should be your exact answer. So x would be cosine inverse 2 over 3, 48.2 and 311. Remember to keep your answer in 3 significant figures, okay, because this was as per requested by your exam paper at the front. Okay, do take note on this. So moving on to the next one, we have tangent x. Okay, but get rid of the negative 1, shift it to the other side, then you will get 3 over 2 plus 1. So tangent x will be 5 over 2. X equals to tangent inverse 5 over 2. So immediately you will get your answer as 68.2 first. Okay, however, this is not the final results, okay, because we still got one more to identify. All school teacher crazy. So we got the other answer located at the third quadrant. Okay, here to here is 68.2. The rest will be 180 plus 68.2. So the other answer will be 248.2. Okay, so James pointed out the results above should be 312 after rounding it to 3 significant figures. Okay, moving on to the last question. This is the hardest type that might appear in your mathematics exam, okay, where the result has a negative over here. Okay, so what this means is that you do it as per usual. Got sine x equals to negative 1 over 2, x equals to sine inverse negative 1 over 2. So for your answer to be negative in sine, which means it must be at the third and fourth quadrant because it is positive on the first and second quadrant. So your answer will only be at the third and the fourth one. So let's figure out what's the results of it. Into calculator, and you will get your results as negative 30. So this negative 30, it's telling you here to here is 30 and here to here is another 30. So to get the exact results, you're required to take 360 minus 30, then you get 330, and also 180 plus 30. So the other result should be 210. Okay, you cannot write the answer as negative 30 because it doesn't represent the degree. There's no negative 30 here. Okay, always refer to the range, then change your answer accordingly. Okay, the 30 is telling you the distance to the exact degree that the question is referring to. Okay. So this is the first results, which is our 210, followed by this red color line, which represent 330. Okay, always remember it's starting from the red line that I shown earlier, which is this over here. Okay, that's how it was based on. You guys have any question? If you got any question, you can ask it now before I move on. All right, then this last three question here basically sums up the hardest your question can get. Okay, so let's go through the first question here by getting rid of the negative 2 first. So 5 sine x equals to negative 5 plus 2. Then I get rid of the 5. I got then sine x equals to negative 3 over 5. The x will be sine inverse negative 3 over 5. So you get your results as the third and fourth quadrant, because first and second your sign will be positive. Okay, so here to here is actually 36 36.9. Okay, so to get the exact results, you're required to take 180 plus 36.9 and also 360 minus 36.9. So you should get your respective results as 217 after rounding it to three significant figures, and 323 degrees. So these two should be your final results. Okay. So the next two questions, I want you to try it out this one first. Okay. However, do take note on the range. They only cover the first and second quadrant. So this is where they can set up the trap for you during exam. They purposely excluded the third and the fourth quadrant. They only want the results with tangent that is negative in the first and second quadrant. So you have to determine which answer you should put in at the end. So try it out and let me know your findings on this. What should the answer be? So James said 333. So this is where he fall for the trap set up by the examiner. So remember that I mentioned earlier, the range doesn't cover it. Okay, it's only for the first and second quadrant. So your working should be as above. So we gotten 2 tangent x equals to -1, tangent x equals to -1/2. So x equals to tangent inverse -1/2. Okay, so the details, when you key in your calculator, you know that the question already restrict the range. By keying your calculator, you should get your tangents -1/2 as -26.6. Okay, however, this is not the answer that the question wanted. Okay, so this line over here, okay, is just to represent what's happening. Okay, here to here, the distance is 26.6. Same goes to here. So to get the exact answer that the examiner is looking for, what you should do is to take 180 minus 26.6. So your answer should be 153.6, or you can just write it as 154 degrees. Okay, so always when you notice that the answer that you've gotten is negative, okay, do not take it lightly. You have to analyze the results and see whether you have to plus or you're required to minus the results that you've gotten. Okay, so to get to the final answer of 154, you're required to take your 180 minus 26.6. Okay, the answer is only 154 because for tangent to be negative, it won't appear at the first quadrant. So you cannot write the 26.6 as the answer. It's only one, which is 154 only. Okay, so you can check on this. For those who is done with this question, you can try on with the next one. Okay, the main difference between this question is the range now changed to the third and fourth quadrant only. Okay, some calculation area. So you guys pointed it out, it should be 153.4. Then your answer after correcting it to three significant figures should be 153. Sorry for that. Okay. So those who's ready, feel free to try the last question that we got in here. So 3 cosine x minus 3 equals to negative 5. So first get rid of the negative 3, then shift away the 3 at the front. And for cosine to be negative, it only will have one answer. So for you to trace the results of this, you should get cosine inverse. You will get 131, or you can just take it as 132 if you want. Okay. So however, they are not looking for the results in the first and second quadrant. So So you're required to take your 360 minus 132. So your final answer for this should be 228 degrees. Regarding the question IB papers, I'm probably not doing it, but I will put on topic explanation video instead. So the way they phrase the question is somewhat similar. You can just refer to those videos and try out a question. Okay, so the answer for this will be 228. Okay, so this is pretty much it for mathematics part. So if you're not taking additional mathematics, the rest is irrelevant to yours. Okay, so hopefully you understand the details on how they will assess you on this question already. A couple of things to take note is when you gotten a question, first look at the range. Okay, then analyze the results, whether it's positive or negative. Then you can determine which quadrant the answer is located at. Then only you key in your calculator, run the calculation. Okay, by doing so, you clear out all the possible mistakes that you can make. Okay. Okay, so for those that is sitting for additional mathematics, your question that you gotten in your exam paper won't be degree all the time. So they will incorporate pi into the exam. So a couple of things you need to get familiar with is 1 over 2 pi represent 90 degree. 180 is actually your pi. 270 is 3 over 2 pi, and 2 pi over there as your 360. Okay, and time to time you're required to convert it back to degree for your own understanding, because sometimes when the pi given to you is very complicated or it's in fraction form, you couldn't actually identify the range of the question they are referring to. So without this, you are always advised to convert it back into degree, then you can effectively identify the answer. Okay, so this is the core concept that you need to know. This 3 over here will be given into your exam. Okay, so you're only required to memorize these 4 things over here. Write it down in your formula sheet that you were given at the front of the exam paper. So a couple of things that I would do is to write down cosine square theta is actually 1 minus sine square theta. So I will write it down to avoid when in exam I've forgotten something or I couldn't get the exact value. So it's always good to write this down. Then when you have the question later on, you can sort it out immediately. So some of you mentioned behind the calculator. So hopefully the examiner didn't know about it, then you can get away from it. Okay, so the rest, the 4 stars over there, I couldn't help you on this. You're required to memorize it. Okay, so I won't be covering all the conversion here. Okay, in this particular webinar here, what I'm doing is similar to the one at the front, the one related to the quadrant topics only. So I won't be covering the conversion part here. So let's go through the first question. So we have 2 sec square theta equals to 8. So we actually have 2 options here because we have sec square that is repeating over here, and also the one with the tangent square theta plus 1. Okay, I will be showing you 2 methods to solve this question. Okay, the first one I will be using this. This is my first method. This is my second method. Okay, so I write down 1 over cosine square theta. Okay, reason being your sec theta equals to 1 over cosine. So when your sec was squared, so same goes to your cosine, you're required to square it. So this thing will be equals to 8. So 1 over cosine square theta equals to 4. Okay, I cross multiply them. Okay, 4 is a whole number, so I put a denominator for it as 1. After your cross multiplication, you should get your result as cosine square theta equals to 1 over 4. Okay, how do you get rid of the square? You're required to bring in your square root. So your cosine theta equals to square root of 1 over 4. Okay, remember when you incorporate square root, you're required to put plus minus at the front. So this plus minus is telling you that in all 4 quadrants, you will have results, because over here you will get cosine as positive, over here you will get cosine with negative, followed by cosine with negative and cosine positive. So key in your calculator, cosine theta, okay, cosine inverse square root of 1 over 4, you get your results as 60. Okay, 60 is your results over here. So followed by 180 minus 60, which is 112, as well as 180 plus 60 equals to 240. And the last one, which is 360 minus 60 equals to 300. So in your exam, your workings might not be the one that was shown in marking scheme. However, as long as your working is correct, I will accept your results. Okay, you will still be awarded the marks. Okay, so this is how I solve this question through method 1. So I'll be working the method 2 at the side if I were to incorporate the tangents ones here. I change the sec square into tangent square theta plus 1 equals to 8. So 2 tangent square theta plus 2 equals to 8. Tangent square theta equals to 6. And tangent square theta equals to 3. Get rid of the square by incorporating square root. So tangent theta equals to square root of 3. Remember to put the plus minus sign. Then I draw the 4 quadrant over here. This is when tangent is positive. This is when tangent is negative. This is when tangent is positive. This is when tangent is negative. So you've gotten the same results: 60, 120, 240, and 300. So this is how they test you on this particular topic. Okay, and this particular question here that I'm covering is the easier type. So along the way, I will show you some other question. So it will only get harder and harder from here. Okay. Okay, so the next one, what we have here is square root of 3 tangent x plus pi over 4 equals to 1. For 0 lesser than x lesser than 2 pi. Okay, so this question here is the harder types of this. Okay, why do I say so? It's because this thing inside the bracket is not like the previous one that has only one x, or it is only theta. So there's changes on the range that we have over there. So what you're required to do first is to accurately identify which range they are actually referring to. So your 0 plus pi over 4, then you will get pi over 4 x 2 pi plus pi over 4. Okay, so if you couldn't understand the exact range, you're always encouraged to convert it back first. So this is actually 45 degrees. This is actually 405 degrees. So this is the range they are referring to. Okay, so I show you both just to illustrate. However, after you practice a few times, then you don't actually need to include this. Okay, this part that I highlighted in blue, not required. It's just for your own illustration. Okay, so let's move on by solving the question step by steps. Okay, so first thing that I did was to get rid of the square root 3. So I've written down tangent x plus pi over 4 equals to 1 over square root 3. Okay, so this results over here, you will notice that there's no plus minus. Okay, it's only plus, which means that the range that we're looking for will be at the first and the third quadrant. Okay, so let's figure out what results that we gotten first. In your calculator, you will get x plus pi over 4 equals to tangent inverse 1 over square root 3. Okay, so we get the results as 30. So this thing here is trying to tell you it's 30 degrees. Okay. However, this is where the range comes into play. Okay? They don't accept anything that is lesser than 45. Does this means that your answer don't have the 30? Okay, so you're required to work this out. So your first answer should be here to here is 30. Okay. So do change your calculator into radian mode when you notice everything that is here is radian. Okay, I hope that you are familiar on how to change your calculator. So just type on your shift, then mode, then you will see radian at number 4. So press 4, then only you calculate. So your tangent inverse 1 over square root 3 would actually be 1 over 6 pi. So to get to these results, I'm required to take pi plus 1 over 6 pi. So this is our first results. Okay. So my results here will be 1 over so you got 7 over 6 pi as this part. Okay, I color code it so you can differentiate it better. 7 over 6 pi is for us to identify this. So remember that I mentioned earlier, because the range has changed, so I won't be including 1 over 6 pi. However, do take note that our range also extended. So it's from here, which is our 2 pi, we can now add it with 1 over 6 pi. So your next answer should be 13 over 6. So the 2 pi is actually our 360. Okay, and after adding it 1 by 1 over 6 pi, it still fall within the range, okay, that the question has changed. So the answer will only have two results, which is this 7 over 6 pi and 13 over 6 pi. So by going through this question, now you will know the main difference between maths and additional mathematics. In additional mathematics, this range actually play a huge role, and whatever that's inside the bracket, the same thing. So it will change the entire thing if you didn't look at it closely. So if you're okay with this, then we're gonna move on to the next one. If you need, if you've got any question, you can ask it now. What you basically need to get it sorted out whenever you gotten a question is to check on the range first. Okay, after you clear out the range, then only you start solving the question. Okay, usually each of these questions will get you about six marks to 4 marks, depends on the difficulty level. Okay, so total for this particular section, it usually hovers around 15 to 18 marks. So it's quite a huge topic. So if you can master this, it will help you a lot in your exam. So are you guys okay? If you're okay, then only I will move on to the following part. One over 6 pi v minus pi over 4. Yes, you're required to minus it off, because we gotten x plus pi over 4 equals to this. Okay, so minus them both with your pi over 4, then you get your final result. Okay, so after you minusing it off, your answer should be 11 over 12 pi and 23 over 12 pi. You get these two answers? Thank you, Sarah, for pointing it out. Yeah, it's kind of confusing, so I have to go through a few more questions. And also, there will be a practice for you at the last slide. So I want you guys to try it out. Then if you got any question, you can send it back to me. Okay. So the final answer for this will be 11 over 12 pi and 23 over 12 pi. So moving on, we have slide 12 here. We have sine x cosine x equals to 1 over 2 tangent x. Okay, so this is where the rules over here comes into play. And also the range is in degree form. So if you've got question at the front that is using radian, you're required to change it back when you notice the range has now changed back into degree. So key in shift mode, then press number 3 to change your calculator mode back into degree. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is to change the tangent. The tangent, based on the formula that we have at the side here, tangent is actually sine theta over cosine theta, or you can convert it into our question. Our question here, addressing it as sine x squared sine x equals to 1 over 2 times sine x cosine. Okay, so you should gotten something like this. Okay, this should be your temporary results. Okay, so I get rid of the 2 cosine x by multiplying it to the other side. So what we have here is now 2 sine x cosine square x equals to sine. Okay, moving on, I'm gonna shift the sine x to the other side. Then I got this 2 sine x cosine square x minus sine x equals to 0. Okay, I rearrange them. Since both of them has something in common, which is our sine x over here, so your answer should be sine x, okay, 2 cosine square x minus 1 equals to 0. Okay, so until here, you're required to break down the question into 2 parts, which is sine x equals to 0 and also 2 cosine square x minus 1 equals to 0. So why did I broken them down? It's like your algebra in your mathematics. So for example, we have this one over here. Okay, we will split this question into x equals to 0 or 2x minus 1 equals to 0. So this is the direct example that we learn in mathematics. So they, in this particular topic, they always incorporate whatever that you learn in your mathematics as a fundamental, then they build up on top of it. So don't panic when you notice something kind of off. Just do it as per usual. Practice more questions, then you will understand why did they phrase the question in the way. So I'm gonna erase this example over here. Then I'm gonna show you how do we identify the results then. Okay, so let's key in our calculator. X equals to sine inverse 0 as well as 2 cosine square x 1 sine square x equals 1 over 2 cosine square x equals to plus minus 1 over square root. So I will draw out 2 of them. This is for the sine one. and this one here is for the cosine. So this is where you have to look back to the range given to you. So they only asking for the results that's between 0 to 180, right? So they're only asking for the results between 0 to 180. So by keying your calculator, okay, make sure your calculator is now in degree mode. Then only you proceed with the calculation. Key in 0. So you will get your first result of this as 0. And followed by 180. Okay. The line that they have here is this red line and this red line for the sine. As for cosine, as mentioned by the question, it has both positive and negative answer. So this positive answer will be falling at the first quadrant, and the negative answer will be followed at the second quadrant. So let's key in our calculator. So you will get your first results as 45, and the other one over here is actually 180 minus 45. So the results will be 135. So you have 4 results in total, which is 0, 180. Okay, I list it according to the degree value. So I write 45 first, 135 followed by 180. And also one more thing, why did I include the 0? It's because the range here, it is less than equals to 0. If today the question changed into less than, then the 0 must be removed from your final answer. Do take note on this, all these little things will affect your final results. So whenever you practice the question, first thing always is to check the range given to you. Okay. So moving on, we have another question at the bottom. But before I explaining it, do you have any question regarding the previous one? If you got the question now, you can just key into the chat box, then I can answer you accordingly. Or if I'm going too fast, you can let me know, then I try to explain in more detailed manners. So all these slides will be available later on. You can just get it through the link that I pinned down below in the comment section. So if you guys okay, then I'm gonna move on, okay? Or you got any question, please ask it now. Then I can answer you. Okay, so Sarah asked a question here. Okay, why when we times sine x cosine x with 2, okay, shouldn't it be 2 sine 2 cos? Okay, so this is the thing. For example, you can look over the example here. If I were to ask you to multiply 2 with xy, will you write 2x 2y, or you will just write 2xy? So this is back to your algebra. Okay, so you don't have to multiply 2 into everything. So the relationship between x and y is already multiplied. So you only change it into 2x 2y when your question is 2x plus y. Then you have to multiply the 2 into both of them. Then you will get 2x plus 2y. It won't be 2x 2y. Then Chan asked me about why do you use the sine side, not the cosine side. I actually did both. I extracted them out, like this one over here. Okay, so sine referring to the 0, and also this bracket to the 0. Am I answering the right question, or why do we use the sine side, not cos graph? I did both. This red line, because when you key in sine inverse 0, you will get 0 degree. So 0 degree as well as the 180 degree over there. That's why the results that I gotten, I included these two things, 0 and 180. So do you still have any question? Okay, for those who understand, feel free to try the next question. I mean this. Yeah, I skipped the working. Should be over here. It's the same, no worries. Sorry for leaving that out. So those who's ready, please try the next question, and do take note that we have 3 theta over here. Okay, which means your range has now been changed. Okay, the 3 theta basically tells you that 2 pi, and then you have negative 2 pi. So what it means is from here to here is 2 pi. Okay, this is for the positive one. Okay, and also the negative one. Negative means the direction is different, so they're going backwards instead. So here is your negative 2 pi. So Labit asks about why only 2 results, not 4. You're referring to the cosine ones, right? It's because of the range given at the top. They say it's only 0 degree to 180. So the ones that is at the bottom, which is the third and fourth quadrant, I won't be including it. Okay, so this thing here, yes, you have answer for it, but because of the range they already specify is only from 0 degree to 180, so this 2 is excluded. Okay, so whenever you solve the question, do take note on the range given to you. Okay, so let's continue with our question. So I got cosine 3 theta equals to 1 over 2. 3 theta equals to cosine inverse 1 over 2. So key in your calculator. This cosine inverse 1 over 2 should get you 1 over 3 pi. Okay. So you got 1 over 3 pi is actually for the first and the fourth quadrant because all school teacher crazy. And here to here is 1 over 3 pi. And for the one at the bottom, okay, this red line over here, what it was telling you was to take 2 pi minus 1 over 3 pi. So this is how you get the first two results. So we should have 1 over 3 pi and two pi minus 1 over 3 pi. You should get your results as 5 over 3 pi. So this is the first two results. Okay, however, it's not the end because we haven't covered the one with negative yet. Okay, so for the one with the negative part, so this line over here, okay, this distance is also negative 1 over 5. And for here to here, this one will be negative 2 pi plus 1. It's very tricky when the question has the range of negative because we are not wired to answer this type of question. So usually for this type of question, it's like 6 marks and above. Okay, whenever you notice there's changes to the range and they include negative, then this type of question will have more marks to it. So you're required to divide everything by 3 again because this is for when it is 3 theta. So your final answer will be plus minus 1 over 9 pi with plus minus 5 over 3, 5 over 9 pi. So these two should be your results. Okay, do take note on this. Okay, question time. Do you have any question? You can ask me now. How do you get answer in pi? So when your question mentioned about radian, like this one over here. You're required to change your calculator mode. So press on shift, press mode, then change into radian. My radian is at number 4. You have to check on your calculator which one should you press on, which number. Okay, do you have any other question? Okay, time to time, students always fall into this trap where the previous part of the question they give you in degree, then the next one they put it in radian. So if you forget to convert your results into degree or into radian, then you will lose the marks. Okay, that's the common trap the examiner would set. So do you have any issue on identifying the answer as 1 over 9 plus minus, as well as plus minus 5 over 9 pi? If you got any question, please ask it now. Okay, I wanted to make you really understand before I go on and cover other questions, because it only get confusing from here. So we got about 8 more questions to go through, then this class will be over. So I prepared another extra 3 questions for you to practice on. Then the solution, I will be posting it up later on. Okay, if everyone is okay, then I'm gonna go to slide 13 already. Okay, so like I mentioned, now the question that we have here is cosec x equals to 2. Okay, for 0 degree, okay, to 180 degree. So do take note that it is only less than, okay, not less than equals to. So if your answer has 0 or 180, those two will not be included. So for those who still doing the previous question, no worries, you can access to the slides later on. So if you're going too fast and you didn't complete your copy, you can copy it down later on. You can download these slides and print it out for your own reference. Okay, so cosec over here can be changed into 1 over sine. So we have 1 over sine x equals to 2. So by running the calculation, you should get, cross multiply them. Sine x equals to 1 over 2, x equals to sine inverse 1 over 2. Okay, if you key in your calculator without changing your mode back into degree, then you will have trouble to identify the answer. The next thing that I will look on will be the value over here. I will check whether it's positive or negative. And since it is positive, which means that the answer will be falling on the first and second quadrant, okay? Because at the first and second, sign will both be positive. Okay, change your calculator back into degree, key in sine inverse 1/2. So you will get 30, the 1 over here, as well as 180 minus 30, which is 150. So you will have 30 degree and 150 degree as your final answer. Okay, if you manage to solve this, then you can try out question A over there. Okay, things to take note is the question now is in radian. So first thing, change your calculator back into radian mode, and do take note on the range because they change it into y minus pi over 4. So what we have will be pi over 4. Okay, remember to put it as negative. And your pi so this should be your range now. Okay. So for cotangent, okay, cot stands for cotangent, and do take note on this. So for those who don't know, cot is actually cotangent. So we have two options, either to change it in cosine theta over sine theta or just 1 over tangent theta. So for this type of question, you're trying to make it as simple as possible. So I won't be asking you to put it as cosine theta over sine theta because you just get into more trouble if you were to do so, or even if you were to use this 1 plus cotangent square equals to cosec square. Okay, this tool will only get you into more trouble, so I won't be suggesting you to use this tool. Okay, you can still get the answer if you were to use this, but this one over here will just get you into more trouble and you couldn't solve it at all. So along the way, when you solve the paper, you are required to choose the ideal path where it helps you to solve the question more effectively. Okay, so let's continue with the question. So I noticed that we have the 3 over there, so I got rid of it first. Okay, so after removing the 1 over 3, I now change my cotangent square into 1 over tangent square y minus pi over 4 equals to 1 over 3. So let's cross multiply it. So you should get tangent square y minus pi over 4 equals to 3. Okay, if you reach until this step, the logical next step is to get rid of the square by putting a square root. So remember, When you are removing the square, you are required to put plus minus square root. So you could get tangent y minus pi over 4 equals to plus minus square root 3. And to get the exact answer, y minus pi over 4 equals to tangent inverse plus minus square root. Okay, so let's key in your answer. Okay, remember the range they gave us was from the first and the second quadrant. Okay, somewhere around here to here. Okay, so based on the range that was given to us, okay, so key in your calculator, you should get tangent inverse square root. You will get your first answer as 1 over 3 pi, followed by another 1, which is reflect to here, 180 is your pi minus 1 over 3 pi. Okay, for this question, we don't have to reflect the 1 over 3 pi down, because if we were to reflect it down, it already exceeded the range given to us. The range given to us is only until negative pi over 4, and the negative 1 over 3 pi is actually more than that. Okay, so we cannot incorporate these results here. So you will get two results, which is y pi minus 4 equals to 1 over 3 pi, as well as two over 3 pi. And through your calculation, your final result should be 7 pi over 12 and 11 pi over. Okay, so do take note that always check on the range first, because that will determine which answer for you to choose and which answer actually qualifies for you to fill it up as the final results. Okay, so question time. If you got any question, please ask it now. If you are okay with it, you also let me know so that I don't skip through the explanation too quickly. Okay. Any question? Okay. So for those who is ready, feel free to try out the following part. Okay, this question B here, I'll be guiding you through it because some of you haven't learned how to convert the cotangent, rearrange the tangent, and also cosec. So for those who understand, I want you to try it by yourself. For those who don't, I'm gonna guide you through on how to use this rules at the side to solve this particular question. So remember, to solve this type of question, you're trying to rearrange everything into as simple as possible. So cotangent, tangent, and cosec here is you couldn't key in your calculator immediately and get the results. So you're required to change them off. So for cotangent, we can actually change it into 1 over tangent and so cosine over sine. And for this question here, I will be changing it into cosine over sine. And for tangent, I change it into sine cosine. 7 over there can be written as 1 over sine. By doing so, I have converted everything into something similar. So my next step is to multiply the 7 into it and figure out what to do next to the rearrangement. Okay. So I noticed that in this fraction that I have here, I have 2 sine as the denominator. So I might as well just rearrange them together first. So I will get 7 cosine z minus 7 over z. And this will be equals to negative sine z over sine z. Okay. So denominator is the same, combine them, then I will have sine z as the denominator and 7 cosine z minus negative sine z over. Okay. So both sides is fraction now, which means I can actually cross multiply them. So let's cross multiply it. So cosine z multiply with 7 equals to negative. Multiply this in. 7 cosine square z minus 7 cosine. And this part over here is the key, everything. So this sine square z can actually be changed into 1 minus cosine z because of the rules above here. The sine square that goes to 1 minus cosine. Okay, so I change it out and I got a negative 1 minus cosine square theta. through this, let's complete the rest. The 7 cosine square z minus 7 cosine z goes to negative 1 cosine. Rearrange them by pulling this 2 over here. Then you will get 6 cosine squared z minus 7 z plus 1. This will be your temporary answer. Okay. You will notice that you will have a square and then without square and then numbers only. So whenever you notice this arrangement, it means that they want you to factorize it, like your algebra. So I got 6 cosine z times cosine z for me to get to 6 cosine z square. 1 and 1 over here. Cross multiply cosine z 6z. They wanted the middle answer to be negative. So to do that, achieve it, both of it must be negative. So you have 6 cosine z minus 1 and so these two will be your temporary results. So break it down, you will get cosine z equals to 1 over 6. And your cosine z equals to 1. So since both of them is positive, your answer could only be landing in first quadrant or the fourth quadrant. Okay, change your calculator mode back into degree because this question is using the degree method. So you got 80.4. The other one will be 360 minus 8. So you got 279.6, or you can write it as 200 and when you key in cosine inverse as 1, you get 0. So the other answer will be 0 and 360. So you have 4 answers in total. Write it in red, the top. 0, 3.4, and then we have 280 followed by 300. So this will be the 4 results. Okay, for the 7 of you that is still here, do you have any question? I know the lesson is getting a bit long, but I try to shorten it as much as possible already, because there's too much to cover, and I really hope that you can solve every question that's here. So if you couldn't stand it anymore, you can just leave, then you revisit this later on. Okay, but I will complete the things that I wanted to cover, then we will end this stream. Okay, any question, feel free to ask it now, then I will be here answering to it. So after going through a few questions, you will know that the crucial roles that the range given to you plays. So for the same, this part B question, if your less than equals to sign was just changed into less than, then your results will only have two, which is 80.4 and 208. Okay, do you have any question? If you're okay with it, then just type in okay. Then I will move on. So if you've got any issue, you can ask it now. Okay, so for here, I will cover the first question first. Okay, we have 2 over sine x equals to 1 plus 3 sine. So this one is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is to multiply the sine x to the other side. Okay, so we should get 2 equals to sine x 1 plus. So by multiplying your sine x into it, you get your results as 9. Okay, you rearrange them, then you run the factorization. So factorization, 3 sine x times sine x, and I'll be putting 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Reason being, if you were to put it the other way around, you wouldn't satisfy the last part of -2. But, okay, so you gotten 2 sine x plus. Okay, so your 2 brackets should be 3 sine x minus 2 and sine x plus 1 equals to 0. So this thing here now backs to your quadrant concept again. So your sine x equals to -1. So let's check whether sine -1 is possible or not. So you will get -90. So this -90 here is exceeded our range of 0 to 180. So this one you don't have to calculate anymore. So we'll just move on, go back to this. Sine x equals to 2, sine x equals to 2/3. So you have two results here because sine is positive. So you get 41.8 as well as 180 minus the results, which is 130. So these two will be your final result. Okay, this is out of range, so I didn't include its answer. So the next question over there, we have sine square x. So remember that I mentioned earlier, because of this, my sine square x can be treated as 1 minus cosine square minus 13 cosine x equals to 1. Multiply your 6 into it, you will get 6 minus 6 cosine square x minus 13 sine x equals to 1. Okay, rearrange them, then you will get 6 cosine square x plus 13 cosine minus 5 equals to 6. So this part to here is actually your basic algebra arrangement. Okay, same thing over again. So you will have 6 cosine x sine x, and then use 6 to change it into 3 2. Cross multiply. So you should get 3 cosine x minus 1, 2 cosine x plus 5. Okay, so the respective result should be cosine x equals to 1/3, x equals to cosine inverse 1/3, or you should get cosine x equals to -5/2, equals to cosine inverse negative 5 over 2. When you key in your calculator, you will notice that cosine inverse 5 over 2 is not possible. Okay, so this one doesn't valid. And when you draw out the quadrant, for cosine to be positive, you only have two results, here and here. So cosine 1 over 3 will be 70.5. Here will be 360 minus the answer of 289 degrees. So these two will be your last results for this question. So we got last three questions to go through, then you're done with this. Okay. Okay, moving on to this 2 sine square question. As per usual, the first thing that I did was to readjust the range. So now the range was being changed into pi over 3 to 2 pi plus pi over 3. If you got any question, you can leave it in the comment, the live chat box, then I will answer to you accordingly. If you guys didn't raise out any question, then we'll continue to be explaining. Okay, so I gotten the range sorted out. So my next step is to rearrange whatever that was over there. So I first gotten 2 to the other side. Then I change everything back into the one without squares. Means I incorporated plus minus the 2 over here. Okay, by doing so, I will know that my range now, okay, I could have results that is quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4, because it covers all plus and minus. So someone asked last question why we ignore cosine equals to negative 5 over 2. You can key in your calculator cosine inverse negative 5 over 2 into it, then you get mathematical error. So you don't have results that is more than negative 1, if I'm not mistaken, for cosine. Yeah, for anything more than negative 1, then it doesn't exist anymore. So cosine's answer cannot be more than -1 for cosine inverse. Okay, this is for the rules that apply in cosine. So for those who is done with that, feel free to try out this question here. Okay, by keying in your results as square root of 1/2, you will get your results as pi/4. Okay, this is just a temporary result. Then you have to check whether pi/4 qualify in the range or not. Okay, because of this range has been changed, so the first pi/4 will not be accepted. So what we have now is this one over here, actually pi minus pi/4. For here it will be pi plus pi/4. Here will be 2 pi minus pi/4. However, remember the range also extended, which means now our range is from here to here. Okay, this blue line here will be our range. So we got one more possible answer that goes by 2 pi plus pi/4. So these four results here will be the one accepted by the question. Okay, so always look back to what was given to us because they are very important. They are the indicators for the range on the variables that we should select as our final result. So we have plus pi/3 equals to 3 pi/4. These are our first results. Then we have 5 pi/4. Then we have 7 pi/4 as well as 9 pi/4. However, this is still not the final answer because we haven't get rid of this. So by minusing everything off with pi/3, then you get your answer as 5 pi/12. To repeat the same, you should get 11 pi/12, 17 pi/12, and 23 pi/12. So this 4 will be the answer here. Let's go through the details again and I re-explain the entire workings. So whenever you encounter a question, first thing is to check the range and the value inside the brackets. So if you have 3 theta plus pi/3, then both of this must be multiplied by 3. However, there's nothing of that. They just added pi/3 over here. So your 0 plus pi/3, you now change your range into pi/3 to 7/3 pi. So this is our new range. Okay, after gotten this new range, you can actually draw out your quadrant over here and you roughly know you will have from pi/3 to 7 pi/3. This is what it represents. Okay, So with that being said, I roughly know which one to choose already. So let's work out the question that we have over here. I get rid of the 2 to the other side. So we got 1 over 2 as the result. I got rid of the square by putting a square root. Remember to include the plus minus. Okay, so now we can actually write this sine inverse of plus minus square root 1 over 2. Then you will get your results as pi over 4 first. Remember, because we already included plus minus, which means all 4 quadrants will have our possible results. Okay. With that being said, I have to determine whether my pi over 4 qualify as the first answer. However, because of this range that we gotten, pi over 4 is less than pi over 3. So automatically your pi over 4 is being excluded. So the next that we can accept will be from pi minus pi over 4 and pi plus pi over 4 and 2 pi minus pi over 4. Student can at least identify 3 of this. Okay, this 3 is the default answer that all students should be able to identify. The only one that's tricky here is this 9 pi over 4 because of these changes in the range. Okay, so we can actually exceed the 360 value and go beyond of it. And this pi over 4 should be the blue line that I drew over here. So I just included 2 pi plus pi over 4 to get to the results of 9 pi over 4. So after minusing it off, okay, by running the calculation over here, taking your 3 pi over 4 minus pi over 3, then you will get the results. Okay, so if you are able to understand this, okay, this is the hardest the question can get. So your exam won't go any further other than this type of question. Okay, these changes inside the bracket will affect the range. So this is the hardest they can assess you on. So I have slide 17 and 18 over here. Okay, I want you to practice on these two questions, and then I will post the results, okay, the solution guide, into my Instagram page. So you can visit my Instagram to access to the explanation of this 5 question over here. if possible, to solve this type of question more effectively, you need to have some understanding on real roots, okay, the roots concept. So I already explained it in details in this particular video that I made earlier. You can watch it from the library. And this 5 question here, you can actually download it later on. I will put a link in the comment. You can download all these slides, go through them by yourself again. Then if you need answer to this 5 question here, you can visit my Instagram. I will post it up later on the solution of this. For those that is in my class, I will send the solution to you later on. Okay, but if you still need the explanation, you have to visit the Instagram to access to the explanation. So this is pretty much it for this particular video. I know it's a little bit long. If you are here, I would like to say thank you to you because you hold and stay on to it. And hopefully that you understand the details already and it acts as a refresh to your memory. Okay, as per always, practice more past year. If you got any question, just hit me up and ask me about it. Okay, that's pretty much it. So thank you. Bye.